Hi guys, Mrs. Moon here, checking in with the final instalment of our class book. So we are on page 255 for those of you that have bought the book and want to join in with the reading. We've got about 40 pages until it is finished, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. So this chapter is called A Temporary Promotion. The bear sat on the suitcase and watched the raft until it was a speck on the horizon. Then he watched the speck until it disappeared. Then he watched the horizon. He sat there, silent, staring at the line where the cloudless blue sky met the featureless blue sea. The boy looked at him. The bear was absolutely still, as if frozen or turned to stone. And though he still made no sound and nothing altered his expression, the boy thought he saw something change in his eyes. It must have been a trick of the light, except the sun was steady and the sky was cloudless, so actually the light had not changed at all. But it seemed as if, somehow, the bear's eyes darkened as the boys watched them, like a bulb of a torch whose batteries were running down. They dimmed until there was nothing there but depthless shadow. And as if inside the bear, there was nothing left. It could be worse, said the boy. The bear, his dead eyes still facing out to sea, barely moved his mouth as he replied. How? He said in a flat, quiet voice. The boy thought about this for a moment and found that he couldn't come up with a good answer, so he decided to change the subject. What do we do now? Said the boy. This at least caused the bear to move, if only a little. He inclined his head towards the boy, eyeing him sadly. I don't know. And then he turned his unstaring stare back out to sea. Nothing, I suppose, he said. Nothing we do does any good anyway, so we may as well do nothing. That's no way for a captain to talk, said the boy. No, you're right, said the bear. The boy brightened a little. But what sort of captain loses his boat? Said the bear. In fact, 3 boats. I've lost 3 boats in one day. That must be some kind of record. The boy wished he could come up with something reassuring to say, but he couldn't help thinking that actually, yes, it probably was a record. I must be the worst ship's captain ever, said the bear in a flat voice. No, said the boy. No, you're not. You're a good captain. You've just been a bit unlucky, that's all. No, I'm no kind of captain at all, said the bear, still quietly and with no emotion in his voice, as if he was simply stating a fact about which he had no real feelings. Of course you are. You're a brilliant captain. You don't really think that, said the bear. Of course I do, said the boy. No, you don't. The bear had picked up a piece of paper from the ground at his feet. He showed it to the boy. It had writing and a drawing on it. Your bottle washed ashore while you were sleeping, said the bear. Who's Richard Scarrett? Oh, said the boy. It was the message that the boy had put in the bottle days ago. It said, to Richard Scarrett. Richard Scarrett was in the boys' class at school. The boy didn't like him. I'm stuck in a stupid boat with a stupid bear, having the worst time ever, and probably going to die because a stupid bear has got us lost at sea. Then there was a drawing of the Harriet with not a very flattering picture of the bear in front and an arrow pointing to the back. At the other end of the arrow it said, wish you were here. Then he signed his name. Then after that he added, P.S. Wish that I wasn't. The boy looked at the scrap of paper from the bear's face. He wasn't angry, but the boy almost wished he was. "I didn't mean it," said the boy. The bear said nothing. "Well," said the boy, "I did mean it then, but I don't mean it now. I know better now. You're a fantastic captain. Best ever. Now, come on, Captain Bear. What are we going to do?" "Stop asking me that. I'm not the captain anymore." "Yes, you are." "Of what?" said the bear in the same emotionless monotone. "I've got no boat. What am I the captain of? This rock?" He gave a small humorless snort. "Well, at least I suppose even I couldn't sink that." "It doesn't matter about the boat. You're still the captain," said the boy. He was frustrated and angry and scared, and he was beginning to shout, "Of course you're the captain! You're wearing the captain's hat!" The bear was hunched over now, as if all of the tension in him was trying to fold him in two. He leaned towards the boy and the tip of his nose just 10 inches from the boy's face. Cold, dark, sad eyes staring into him. "No," he said, simply and quietly lifting a forlorn paw to his head. "No, I'm not." He took off the hat and dropped it at his feet. They both looked at it, lying there for a second. The boy looked up at the bear. He thought about pleading with him some more, but he could see it would do no good. The bear had had enough. A whirlpool of panic and hurt and sadness started up in the boy's stomach, but he swallowed hard and tried to ignore it. He wanted very much to cry, but he didn't. "Well then," he thought, "here's where we are." The boy then picked up the hat and put it on. He had to push it quite far back on his head to keep it from slipping down over his eyes, so it gave him an air of authority. But he stood up straight and tried to keep his voice from quavering. "Right then," he said, "I suppose I'd better take charge for a while." The bear was sure to react to this. He was bound to snatch back the captain's hat and take charge again. The boy just knew it. He was as sure as could be. Any moment now. The bear looked at him and said nothing. And then he didn't even look at him, turning his eyes away and staring into space. "Oh," thought the boy, "now what do I do?" He had no idea, but he thought it best if he at least looked like he did. He walked decisively over to the bear's suitcase and looked inside. The telescope was in there, so he picked it up and reached it out. He raised it to his eye and looked out at the horizon. It felt quite a captain-y thing to do, so he thought he'd stick with it until he had a better idea. "Now then, first things first," he said. "Let's assess our situation." He spun slowly around, scanning the sea in all directions and seeing, as he had at once feared and entirely expected, only sky and sea, except for the brief moment when he found himself accidentally looking at the bear, out of focus and greatly magnified, at which point he almost jumped out of his skin in surprise. With no better ideas springing to his mind, he decided to look all the way around again. "Best to double check," he said, trying his best to sound confident and in charge. The bear looked as if he hadn't even heard him. "Here," said the boy, "make yourself useful, will you? If I go up on your shoulders, I can see a little bit further. Come on, lift me up." Reluctantly, the bear took hold of the boy and hoisted him onto his shoulders. "That's it," said the boy in a cheery voice, as cheery a voice as he could muster. "Up the periscope." The bear held on to the boy's legs and straightened up. "Now," said the boy, "slowly turn me around so I can have a proper look at things." The bear did as he was asked and shuffled and slowly revolved, turning the boy like some strange living lighthouse. The boy kept the telescope focused on the furthest areas of the sea for one turn around, and then looked a little closer in for another, and then back out, and then closer in. There was nothing. Even the last bits of the wreckage from the Mermaid were long gone, having drifted away over the horizon in one direction or another, probably following the raft like ducklings behind their mother. "Satisfied?" said the bear. "Will you be getting down now?" "One more turn around, please," said the boy, "for luck." "Ha, luck," said the bear, but he kept turning. The boy stared through the telescope so hard that he thought his eyeball must be bulging out. Still, he saw nothing, but he couldn't bring himself to say so to the bear. He asked for one more turn, 3 more times, and the bear, without a word, kept turning. After the 3rd time, he came to a halt. "There's no point," he said. "There's nothing there, is there?" And his cracking voice broke the boy's heart. Sorry, that was the bear. "There's no point," he said. "There's nothing there, is there?" And his cracking voice broke the boy's heart. So the boy decided to lie. "Wait," he said, though he still saw nothing. "There's something." His mind was a tangle, and he had to try really hard to think at all clearly. "What am I going to do now?" he thought. "I can't make something appear just by wishing it." But he didn't have any better ideas. "I wish something would appear," he thought. "What is it?" said the bear. Good question, thought the boy. And then he did see, or at least he thought he did. There was the tiniest speck of a bump on the horizon. He had clearly got mad. He was wanting to see something so badly that he was imagining it. He wiggled the telescope a little to make sure it wasn't just some dust on the lens. He blinked his untrustable eyes hard and looked afresh. It was still there. "Don't move," he said to the bear, his voice strong and clear like a captain's. The bear stood very still, and the boy felt his arms grow heavy and tired as he held the telescope as still as possible, determined to not lose sight of the tiny fleck of hope. "I'm not sure yet," he told the boy. "There's something, but it's really close to the horizon. And if it's moving at all, it's only going slowly. I can't tell yet if it's getting any bigger." His heavy arms ached and he was cold and tired, but the telescope was absolutely steady in his hands. He watched and he waited and he wished. "It's coming closer," he said. Yes, I'm sure. It's getting bigger. It's coming closer." And now he could see what it was. He couldn't believe it. He kept the telescope to his eye and blinked again. It didn't disappear. He wasn't just imagining it. "It's the Harriet," he said. A tremble rose through the bear's shoulders and into the boy and made his view through the telescope wobble. "She's a long way off, but we might just be able to swim to her," said the boy. He was speaking quickly now, jabbering excitedly. "Or you could go, and I could wait here, maybe." "We'll both go," said the bear. "Okay," said the boy, "but we'll have to wait for the tide to come in first." "It's already in," said the bear, tapping him on the leg. The boy looked down and saw that the water had risen again. Higher this time, entirely submerging the rock. The bear was waist deep in water, his suitcase floating beside him. "These tides are really weird," said the boy. "It's not like this at Cromer." "These are strange waters hereabouts, it's true," said the bear, and gently leaned forward, floating up and kicking his legs. "Stay on my shoulders. Now, which way?" The boy put the telescope back up to his eye and scanned around. Leaning forward over the bear's head, he pointed a definite finger, and the bear set off in that direction, pushing the suitcase ahead of him towards the Harriet. Back on board. Eager, strong, and steady, the bear swam fast. He ploughed through the water, his nose just above the surface, his legs churning a white plume. The boy sat up on his shoulders, ecstatic and alive. They were soon there. The boy stepped up onto the bear's head and climbed into the Harriet. The bear dropped in the suitcase and then pulled himself up after it, tipping the boat towards him as he did so. He flopped into the little boat, and they sat dripping either side of the centre seat as the boat rocked back to stillness. The bear, though he was soggy and tired, seemed to glow with regained energy. He sat up straight and alert. He smiled and his eyes were full of life again. The boy grinned and stood up and leaned over to him. He took off the hat and perched it on the bear's head. "Welcome home, Captain," he said. The bear said nothing. He just adjusted the hat slightly on his head and sat back on his seat, wiggling his bottom a little as he did so, as if working it into place. Then he took up the oars and began to row. Splish, splish, splish. The boy climbed onto his seat and sat there thinking. He was back in the stupid little boat with the smelly old bear rowing them, who knew where, and with no idea when or if they might meet again, and he was utterly content. "Fancy a game of I Spy?" he said. Said the bear. "Don't mind if I do." Stormy. Splish, splish. They had played I Spy for a long while, and then when the boy could stand it no longer, he had gracefully declined another round and reread the comic a couple of times. He didn't even want to think about when they'd last eaten, but his hunger had been there for so long that he'd become used to it. It was normal now, and he didn't really notice it. The bear was humming quietly to himself. He stopped rowing and looked round at where they were heading, off to the horizon, and then turned back and looked up at the boy, took off the hat, scratched his head a moment, and put the hat back on. Tea breaks and sleeping aside, this was about as long a break from rowing as the boy had ever seen him take. And then the bear squinted, tilted his head to one side, and stared off past the boy. Something dark and fearful flickered across his face, a brief glimpse of some worry that he had quickly hid away, but the boy had only half noticed it, but it was enough to make him ask. "What's wrong?" he said, turning to look behind him, feeling a sharp blast of wind on his face as he did so. "I spy with my little eye something beginning with C," said the bear, nodding his head to indicate something behind the boat. Surprised, the boy turned his head and stared in the direction that the bear had indicated. The boy could just make out a single, small, light grey cloud a long way behind them. He turned back to the bear. "More inclement weather on the way," said the boy cheerily. "Can we row towards it? I could use some rain." "No," said the bear. "Besides, it'll be on us soon enough." "Why are you worried about that little thing?" said the boy. "And in any case, it's miles away." He turned round again to look. The cloud was indeed still a long way away, but it was closer now, and bigger, and darker. The boy watched it, scared and fascinated. He could see it growing, gaining on them, and darkening before his eyes. He could hear the tempo of the bear's rowing increase, and the noise of the oars striking the water grow louder and deeper as the bear pulled on them harder, pushing the boat along faster than ever. But the cloud was moving faster still, barging towards them, full of menace and violence. Looking back to the bear, he caught another glimpse of worry. His fur bristled in the rising wind. "Will it be bad?" said the boy. The bear looked him straight in the eye. "Yes," he said, "it will be bad." As he said it, he was thrown into darkness. The boy turned again and saw that the cloud, a brooding black mass, was almost on top of them now. "Okay," said the boy. "What do we do?" "Hang on, mostly," said the bear. "This will be an interesting one." The sea was awake now, stretching and flexing its muscles, then bending and dancing, thumping and bumping and rocking and rolling the boat. The wind came at them too hard too, whipping the boy's hair into his eyes and picking up the spray from the sea and throwing it at them. The boy looked up through the stinging eyes. The cloud was all he could see of the sky now, looming like a bully, dark and cruel and threatening. And then the rain started. There was no gentle introduction, no gradual progression from dryness to drizzle, and then on to rain. Instantly there were hard shafts of water pounding down upon them, pummeling them. He looked at the bear, already hard to see through the raging downpour. His face was set and his head was in constant motion, looking all around, watching the waves and doing the best he could to keep the Harriet level, jabbing at the water with one or other of the oars, steering them through the chaos. He was utterly consumed with the task at hand and concerned, but not truly afraid. It was clear, even though the boy could only catch glimpses of him through the rain, spray and crashing waves, that he was relishing the challenge. He was fighting the sea. He didn't know who would win. The boy wondered if that had ever happened before. They were ankle deep in water now, and the boy risked bailing with cupped hands whenever the boat seemed steady enough that he didn't need to hold on tight. The rain bore down onto them one way, and the wind tore at them another, while the sea, bucking beneath them, tossed them playfully about. "This is what you call interesting, then, is it?" shouted the boy, with as much bravado as he could muster. But he could barely hear himself above the rain and the raging sea, and the bear was too consumed by his task to pay him any attention beyond the occasional glance. The waves were like mountains now, and despite the bear's best efforts to keep the Harriet from being buried under them as they came crashing down, enough spray had splashed in to the little boat that was filling with water. Enough spray had splashed in that the little boat was filling with water. Then the sea picked them up. A gigantic wave rose beneath them, lifting them absurdly high and holding the Harriet teetering at its peak. They seemed to hang there for a moment, still and calm, high above the furious waves. Then, tickling foam beneath the Harriet's hull tipped them from their perch and sent them plunging down a cliff face of water, crashing into the sea below. The impact threw the boy from his seat and out over the side of the boat. He saw the water churning and angry, waiting to embrace him, rising to meet him in slow motion. It hadn't occurred to him how calm he had been up until now, up until the moment that he became entirely helpless. And even now he was more shocked than terrified. He gasped in the biggest breath he had ever taken and had no expectation of ever taking another. Then a mighty tug on his arm pulled him back, landing him back in the boat. He looked up, his arm aching, and saw the bear still fighting the waters with one oar and the other lost to the waves as he had grabbed the boy. The bear gave the boy the briefest, smallest smile. The boy smiled back. Then the Harriet span suddenly around, and the remaining oar, dug deep into the water, was wrenched from the bear's paw. It flew free, and the handle smacked the bear hard on the head. For a fraction of a second he was merely looked surprised. Then his eyes closed and his body crumpled as consciousness deserted him. The boy leaped up and reaching out to him, grabbing hold of one limp paw, and then the immense wave that had just dropped down began to break above them. The boy stared up at it defiantly and held on hard to the bear and braced himself. He took his next breath, and then the tower of water folded and crumbled and crashed down onto the Harriet with a mighty rush of noise and fury, and everything went black. Calm. The bear awoke. This in itself was something of a surprise. His head hurt, but that seemed like a reasonable trade-off for not being dead. He was lying on his back, and the sun was in his eyes. He blinked and squinted, and a hazy shadow took shape before him. "Hello, bear," said the boy, who was sitting on his stomach, holding the ukulele. "My ukulele," said the bear rather groggily. You're the boat and this is the paddle, said the boy, holding it up. Hope you don't mind. The bear turned his head and realised that he was floating on his back in the sea, an agreeably calm sea, with something hard and buoyant holding his head up. I managed to hold on to your suitcase, said the boy. The storm started to die down after you got knocked out, and I used it to keep you afloat. That can't have been easy, said the bear. I managed, said the boy. The bear was looking out to his side rather than at the boy. There was wreckage in the water around them. Harriet, he said. I'm sorry, said the boy. The bear looked up at him again now. A sadness seeped into his face, softened, and then ebbed away. The boy watched it come and go, much as he had expected. Can't be helped, said the bear. Thank you for keeping me afloat. You're welcome, said the boy. The end. Splish, splish, splish. It's quite a stretch for the boy, perched on the bear's belly, to reach down to the water with the ukulele to row. It dips only part way in, and every so often he has to empty water out that accumulates inside. They are making slow progress. You know, if you played the banjo, we'd be going much faster now, said the boy. Sorry about that, said the bear. That's okay, said the boy. Do you know where we're going? Said the bear. Yes, said the boy. Splish, splish, splish. You could kick your feet a bit if you wanted to help out. Oh, yes, said the bear. Okay. The bear kicked his feet a bit and they're moving on, rising and falling together over the gentle swell of the water. Now we're getting somewhere, said the boy. Jolly good, said the bear. And then, after a pause, do you think we're nearly there yet? The boy looked ahead away to where the sun is sinking into the water. Yes, bear, he said. I am sure we are. And the boy paddles and the bear kicks his feet, and after a little while they sing a little, and then they disappear over the flat blue horizon and on towards another. And that is the end of our book, A Boy, a Bear and a Boat. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It wasn't the ending that I was expecting, but it might have been the one that you might have been expecting. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Okay, I'll speak to you soon. Bye.